Good afternoon and welcome. Today we will be hosting a special session with our colleagues over at Altus Assessments. But first off, we're going to introduce our team here at TMDSAS. My name is Enrique Hasso. I am the Director of TMDSAS here in the Texas Health Education Service in Austin, Texas. As you all are aware, the Casper Assessments is actually part of a larger suite of assessments that applicants take along with the rest of their application. And it gives our member institutions the ability to take a look at different situational judgments, different characteristics that applicants have to see if they would be a good fit for the school. So this is actually an opportunity for you to go beyond the application, beyond your essays, and really showcase who you are, what kind of judgments you'll be making, and most importantly, show your true self, not the self that you're trying to curate through your application. So this is a really key way for you to leverage your own personality and try to break that cookie cutter impression that we all have of aspiring physicians, dentists, podiatrists, or veterinarians. So I'm going to hand it over to our host of the TMDSAS office hours, Suleyma.
Hi, thank you, Enrique. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suleyma Melendez, and I am the Team DSAS Support Coordinator. So you guys may know me from the office hours, but for today, I have a special sort of guest with us. So I'll go ahead and introduce Gregory, Adam, and Gabriella if you guys want to kick us off.
Perfect. I can get us going there. Yeah. Sorry, I know I was on mute. Thank you for the great introduction. And hi, everybody. Welcome. So I think today we're going to have a good chat around what Altus Suite is, give you a little inside information, and be here to answer any questions that you have as well. So we will have some time at the end, I think, for some Q&A, but please feel free to put them in the chat box as well, and we'll be sure to get to those at the end. As Alima mentioned, I have my colleagues Gabriella and Greg with me today. So we will run through a number of different things and try and cover all of the bases around Altus Suite and some of the myths and things behind it as well. So if you don't mind jumping to the next slide, please, Gabby.
Before we do, Gabriella, Gregory, and Adam, would you all introduce yourselves and kind of your role at Altus?
Yeah, for sure. Great idea. Sorry about that. So my name is Adam Clark. So I'm a senior manager on the customer success side. So essentially, we work with all of the programs that decide to use Altus Suite within their application process, and we help them with the score delivery, make sure the test dates are looking well for what they need, and just be there to answer any questions that they have. So I'll pass over to Gabby.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabby, or Gabriella, up to you, whichever you prefer. Pronouns are she, her. And just like Adam and Greg, we're located in Toronto, Canada. It's a little bit colder here than it is down in Texas right now. But I work alongside with Adam in the customer success team. And my role is really to help out programs, help you as applicants get suited for their admissions by taking Casper. And I'll hand it over to Greg now.
Thanks, Gabby. So my name is Gregory, and I'm operations manager of the support team. So when applicants like yourself have any questions, whether that be before, during, or after your tests or assessments about anything whatsoever, it'll be myself and the support team helping address those questions and just helping you find your way around.
All right.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And Suleyma and I will be in the background. We'll let you all do your thing.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, so let's get started. Just onto the next slide then, Gabby. And so we're going to run through a few things. I don't know how familiar everybody is with Altus Suite. It may be new to you. You may have a good idea of what it is, but we want to give you a genuine overview as well of kind of what each of those assessments are. So looking at Casper, Snapshot, and Duet. We'll then run through our Take Altus website and give you kind of a sneak peek of where you can find things if you're looking for resources, if you're looking for the practice test, just our blog to answer some questions that you may have as well. We'll give you an overview of score delivery and how that's done. Some more resources as well. You can never be over-resourceful, I suppose. And then we'll have some Q&A at the end, like I mentioned. So again, please feel free to pop those in the chat. And at the end of the session as well, we'll be able to answer any questions. Next slide, please, Gabby. Okay. So Altus Suite is essentially made up of 3 assessments. There is Casper, which is an SJT, which is a situational judgment test. So here we're screening for social intelligence and professionalism. I'll give an overview of these as well on following slides. We then have Duet, which is a value alignment assessment. So essentially, we're looking for your values, how they match along with the programs that you're applying to's values as well. This is only used within UME programs, so undergraduate medical education programs at the moment. So it's not available for other programs such as veterinary and dentistry and those programs yet. Then we have Snapshot, which is a one-way interview. So this evaluates your communication skills and self-reflection and motivation to apply to that program as well. So I'll give a breakdown of what each of those are in a couple of minutes. Next slide, please, Gabby. Fantastic. So what makes Altus Suite unique? So the programs use Altus Suite to learn more about you as a person. So we know that the admissions process is, can be quite daunting. There's a lot of things that they need, a lot of metrics that you have to go through. But from our perspective, this is one of the good ones. Okay, not that the other ones aren't good. This just kind of gives you that picture of who you are as a person as well. So this test actually came out of Ontario, Canada, at McMaster University, and it was created by their medical program because they were getting a few thousand applicants every year, and they could only interview 500 of those applicants, and they were primarily basing their interview places on how book smart applicants were. But they wanted to know more about them. How empathetic are these people? How motivated are they? How professional are they? So they created Casper to kind of understand applicants a little bit more rather than just how book smart they were. A few other programs got wind of this and asked if they could use it. And now Casper is one of the tests that is used across North America, the UK, Australia, and a number of different verticals and programs. There is a whole lot of research behind it. There's 15 plus years. We have full research teams. There's our number of published papers around the data and the analytics around Casper and our other new products as well. And we're also trying to promote a fair admissions process. We're trying to eliminate any bias that may be there, trying to lower demographic differences and these types of things behind any assessment that is out there, especially for admissions. Next slide, please. So what is Casper? I know I just did a kind of brief overview of it. So it is an online situational judgment test. Okay, one of the benefits of Casper is it can be done from anywhere. It's not like an interview where you have to go and travel or do an in-person one. Obviously, there are Zoom ones now. But Casper can be done from anywhere. All you need is a laptop, internet connection, and a web camera to use Casper. And essentially what it is you'll watch a small video or you'll read a small sentence of an everyday dilemma. And you'll have 30 seconds to reflect after that. Then you'll have 5 minutes to answer 3 open-ended questions. The test itself is basically revolved around why you would do such an action. It's not just, yes, I would do this. We want to know the rationale and the reason behind this, okay? So it's to evaluate your social intelligence and your professionalism. We're looking for specific constructs around it. The test itself can take anywhere between 100 to 120 minutes. And I'll run into the breakdown of actually how that test is now, actually. I think it's on the next slide, Gabby. Yes. So for those of you who have been familiar with Casper in the past, it used to be a 12-section test, which were all typed. So you'd have 12 sections, you would have 5 minutes to answer those 3 open-ended questions, and they will be typed. We're changing things up a little bit this year. So it's actually going to be 15 scenarios. 9 of those will be typed, and 6 will be a video response. Okay, so for 9 of them, you're going to watch the video or see the sentence. You'll have 30 seconds to reflect. Then you have 5 minutes to answer the 3 questions typed. And on the video response format, you're going to have 3 questions, but you'll have 1 minute to answer them each verbally. So you can just speak into the camera and answer those verbally. This is going to be a slightly different from what it was in the past. All of the programs are going to receive your 9 typed response format. Because we're going to score these differently. Not all programs will receive the video formats. Only a select few will be receiving these, but we'll be sending out all the 9 type responses to all programs. Like I said earlier, the test will take anywhere between 100 and 120 minutes. As Gabby will go through in a little bit, there are options to take the practice test as many times as you want, and we highly recommend that you do that on our platform. Once you have your profile, you can run through this as many times just to familiarize yourself with the format of the test, not necessarily kind of learn the questions because their questions will always change, but to know the format of the test. You know, you have a time limit, you have the typing aspect, and you have the video response aspect of it as well. but they just want to see your genuine responses and rationale of why you would do an action. Next slide, please, Gabby. So this is just a little example. I'm not going to play the video for you. You can see these on our website, which Gabby will show you in a little bit. So let's say this is one of the scenarios. You will watch this video, which will be anywhere between 30 and 60 seconds. And in this case, this gentleman is returning a toy to a store. His reasoning is he needs to buy medication for his daughter, but he doesn't have the money, so he needs a refund. However, he does not have a receipt. And on the other side, the employee, it's her first couple of days. By store policy, she needs the receipt. She'll be risking her job. And then essentially you're watching these as a third person. That's the way the camera is set. They'll turn to the camera and say, what do you think I should do, essentially? Therefore, it's up to you. As you can see, the questions on the right-hand side. I'll just read the first one off. What would you tell the other employee? Go ahead and give the refund or abide by store policy. The reasoning here is justify your answer, okay? We don't want you to say, yeah, I would give the refund. We really want you to justify your answer of why you would do such a thing. We understand that not everybody is a really fast typer, okay? And that's a question we get quite a bit, but I'm not a great typer. How can I justify all this in kind of, the 5 minutes that I have? You can answer by point format. You can answer in small sentences. It's never the case of whoever's going to write the most is going to score the highest on Casper. Just try and justify your answer within the time limits that you have. Next slide, please, Gabby. So Casper scores are only valid for one admission cycle. This is because the Casper test is always developing and changing. As you just saw, we're changing from 12 to 15 scenarios. And one of the reasons of this is essentially you're being compared to your peers that are applying to the same program. So if you had somebody that took the Casper test a few years ago, you don't want to be essentially compared to new applicants now that are applying this year. So the Casper test is valid for only 1 year. So if you're applying again the following year, you will need to retake the Casper test. Next slide, sorry. Fantastic. So applicant results and quartiles. So what we do, we don't send you an exact result that what you get. What we do 4 weeks after you've taken the test, we will send you an email with your quartile. Okay, we're rolling this out to all programs this year. It's pretty new. Previously, we didn't really send any feedback or information out about scores. However, this year we're sending it out to all applicants. So you will receive a quartile score. So in this case, it says you fell between the 75th to 100% quartile. I want to put your mind at ease. If you fall between the 0 to 25th, we don't want you to panic. If you fall between the 25th to 50th, we don't want you to panic. Or 75 to 100, we don't want you to panic by seeing your quartile. Programs use scores in a number of different ways. Some of them use it impressionistically. They'll just look at everything. If nothing is concerning, they'll go through. Please don't panic if you see a quartile result that is 0 to 25. It does not mean that you have failed the Casper test or, you're not going to get a seat in your program. It's definitely not the case, okay? We're just trying to give all the information to the program that we can around the Casper test itself. You cannot fail or pass the Casper test. It's one of those tests that we're just trying to look for your genuine responses. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our other assessment that we have. It's new for the last couple of years, and it's open to all programs that want to use it. So this is called Snapshot. And essentially, it's a communication, self-reflection, and a motivation assessment. It's an interview, let's say. But what we're going to do is you'll see, we'll have 3 questions. You'll see them individually, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer each question on video. Okay, these questions are directed to, what education environment you want to work in or the program that you want to apply to. They're going to be primarily focused around that rather than the situational judgment test like Casper, which is an everyday dilemma. This really wants to know your motivation and your self-reflection of the program that you're applying to. It won't be our Casper raters that are rating this assessment. It will be the programs themselves that will use and look at these interview responses for their admissions purposes. There are, again, practice questions as you when you sign up for the Casper test. If they were requiring Snapshot, you will see it in there, okay? So again, we recommend you to take those, get comfortable with just speaking to the camera, being aware of your background, how you dress, those types of things. Use the practice test. It'll familiarize yourself with the format. For Casper, you'll only have to take essentially 1 depending Casper test per test cycle. We do separate the undergraduate medical education and the other verticals. So if you're applying to, let's say, medicine and veterinary, you will need to take 2 separate Casper tests. But with Snapshot, you may only need to take 1 snapshot, and that same video responses will be sent to the same programs. Again, Gabby will run you through which programs are requiring different assessments. So it'll be easy for you to understand which programs you need to, which assessments you need to take for which programs, depending who you're applying to. Next slide, please. Thank you. And our third assessment is called Duet. Now, this is new, essentially this year, last year, and is only available for undergraduate medical programs at the minute. And again, only if they want to use it. You'll see which programs are requiring Snapshot and Duet a little bit later. But essentially what Duet is, it's a value alignment assessment. So the programs are trying to see if your values and their values are aligned, and there'll be a score associated to each. So the program are going to create a program profile between them, their faculty, some students, which look at things like mission and culture. It'll look at, program features, these types of things. So when you go in there and run your assessment, it's very quick. It takes maybe 15 minutes. And it's almost like a multiple choice. It's going to say, which do you rate higher, A or B? You'll answer that. Then it'll say, okay, which do you rate higher, A or C? And over this, you're going to get a score that will be shared with the program, and it'll show the alignment score there. Okay, so they just want to make sure that your values and their values are in alignment as well. It's a new one that's out this year, and the programs really like it because it's a good opportunity to see who you are as a person as well. I think I'm passing it over to you next, Gabby, if I'm not corrected.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, thank you. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to walk everyone, let me exit the presentation first. I'm going to walk everyone through our website, so takealtus.com. One thing to note is that we actually had some scheduled maintenance happen earlier today that is still running. It's running a little bit late, so I won't be able to show you the full page on your login and how to reserve your Casper test, but we have screenshots that show how that's done. So at least you'll be able to see a bit of a sample of how that works before you go in and register for your own Casper test. But just getting started on this website, so takealtus.com, this is where you can find information about test preparation, our test dates and times, our fees, and also this is where you go and register for your Casper test and also complete all the other assessments. And this is pretty much where everything lives for you as an applicant. So the first item that I want to note here on this page is that in every single page, you're going to notice this orange chat bubble on the bottom right corner. And this is our applicant support team. This is how you can get in touch with us if you have any concerns or any questions, anything happening before, during, or after the Casper test. Greg's team is there to help you out with that. We also do have folks working in the applicant support team all the way out in Australia. So if you have a question at 3 a.m. that you're really stressed out and you really want to ask somebody about it and it's related to Casper, there will most likely be somebody there to answer that question at 3 a.m. your time. So once again, we have that round-the-clock support available for our applicants. And the next thing I want to talk about is just the tabs that you see up here. So our website, we try to make it as clear and very user-friendly as possible. And the first tab here, you're going to see that we have information about Altus Suite, which is what Adam went through with you folks just earlier. Information about Casper, Duet, Snapshot, Altus Suite for graduate medical education as well. Then secondly, we have our dates and fees page, which I will be going over. But before I do that, I want to talk about our test prep, FAQ, and blog. So this is where you can find information to help you best prepare for Casper. So first, I'm just going to go to test prep. And before I go through this information, I just want to say that we are aware that there are third-party companies out there that may offer services to help you get ready for Casper. They may charge maybe $500, $1,000, and they say, here, pay for this prep test and prep course, and we'll help you succeed in Casper and pass it. And we strongly advise against going for those third-party companies due to several reasons. The first one is that essentially these test prep companies are charging you for to have access to a sample test that they've been able to compile or they've taken from us. And through that sample test, they may be able to give you coaching, but we don't know how that coaching is done. And also, we don't know how that aligns with our own rating and the way the background in theory and all the training that we provide our raters with. So we do not want you to invest your money into a course that may potentially not help you when you're taking the Casper test. Secondly, just going back into that money part, we are aware that applying to all of these programs is a huge financial burden, and we don't want you to spend any extra money trying to prepare for Casper when all you have to pay for is the actual test when you take it. So as a result, all of our resources, all of our webinars, everything that we have created to help applicants prepare for Casper is available on our website at no cost. For example, this one tab here, we have information about Casper, Snapshot, Duet, some general tech tips. And if I scroll down here, you're going to see that we have, you know, a kind of like a checklist for you to prepare before you go in and take the official Casper test. Some sample scenario that you can run through on your own time. You have the questions available here as well. Here's the example that Adam went through if you want to watch that example and then read the questions and think about it. Finally, we do also have some word-based scenarios. So once again, they're just like the video ones where we present to you with a situation and ask you, what would you do in that situation? Why would you take that approach, and so on. Finally, scrolling down here, we have information about how to prepare for Snapshot. Before actually taking the official Snapshot assessment, you do have a chance to take a practice snapshot recording as well. And that's mostly just to get used to talking to the camera, to reading the questions, get used to the time limits you have, and so on. So all of the practices that we have in place are really to just help you get comfortable with the format of these assessments. Thirdly, we have Duet, which Duet, there's really no need to practice. We don't have a sample test for that because it is simply a measure of your own personal values and preferences. And we always suggest that applicants go with their gut. There's no right or wrong answer. Really, just choose whatever you think would align best with your own values. Then finally, here's some general tech tips. You know, make sure that everything's running smoothly. I mean, we know that there are times that there may be a complete blackout in your neighborhood, or you know, your internet shuts down in the middle of the test. Like, those are things that we know that you cannot control, and we have our applicant support team that's there to help you out in those situations. But in order to mitigate those cases in which, for instance, you're using the wrong browser, or your internet speed isn't as quickly as it should be, we try to have all these tech tips available ahead of time before you take the official assessments, so that any sort of technical issue that you can have a control over and changing are addressed ahead of time, and that you're comfortably taking the test when you need to do so. If I scroll all the way back up, I'm going to talk about our frequently asked questions page. So these are questions that our applicant support team have compiled over the years, and they've divided it between Casper, Snapshot, and Duet. The one item that I will be focusing on is accommodations here, which I know it's something that most of our applicants would be really interested in finding out about. So we do provide accommodations, and the way that they work is that an applicant has to give us a notice at least 3 weeks before their actual scheduled test date, and they have to fill out a form and get a physician's note, and then hand that over to us at Altus, and we can look at what accommodations they may need, and on a case-by-case basis, we can address those and accommodate the applicant for whatever they need. So some accommodations may include closed captions, which now all of our video scenarios do have closed captions. If you need to have extra time to write your responses, we can look into that as well. If you're hard of vision and you need a scribe or somebody to help you read the questions, then we can accommodate for that as well. The most important thing to note here with accommodations is that they are completely confidential. So the programs that you're applying to and you're sending your Casper scores to are not going to know if you've requested those accommodations. That's something that we take very seriously, that confidentiality. It's not something that we disclose publicly to programs. Going back up, I'm going to, just go over the blog page here in case you want to find out more information. We also have this available with just, some extra tidbits, blogs, blog posts, and information that you may be interested in finding out. And now I'm just going to focus on the dates and fees page here. So a few things to note is, firstly, all the test times are on North American Eastern time zone, unless stated otherwise. So Adam mentioned earlier that we do have tests running in Australia, and of course they have their own time zone, but every test for programs located in North America run on Eastern Daylight Time. So when you're seeing the test dates and times in this website, that's going to be on Eastern Daylight Time or Eastern Savings Time. Either way, it's going to be on Eastern Time. And the reason why we have that set that way is because we do our own proctoring, and due to the human nature of rating, where we have to hand over all of the responses over to our raters so they can rate it, and then we hand that over to the program to get your score. Because of all that, we do have all these set test dates and times, and Casper is not a test that you can take at any time. However, Snapshot and Duet are tests that you can certainly take at any time before the distribution deadline. But when it comes to Casper itself, you just have to make sure that you're logged into your computer and you have everything running before the actual official time that you're supposed to take it. Then secondly, to reserve your Altus Suite actually, and create an Altus Suite account, the things that you're going to need are a government issued photo ID. So that could be a passport, a driver's license. You do have a valid email address. And we strongly suggest that the email address that you use to log into Casper is the same one that you use with all the other communication with the programs that you're applying to, with your TMD, SAS, etc. So everything, just make sure it's the same email address so that you're able to get all the right communication from us, and that we're able to locate your account in case we need to, locate something in the future. Then you also need to have a working webcam and a microphone. And once again, that's to simulate the testing hall environment from the comfort of wherever you're taking the test. And of course, you also need to be on your own when you're taking the test. So make sure that you're in a room where you're uninterrupted, where there's no people walking in the background, where you're comfortable as well. Just thinking that, you're sitting in a test hall, taking a test along with with folks, and you're able to, you're kind of able to simulate that from the comfort of wherever you are. And finally, just have that reliable high-speed internet connection. That is definitely key, especially when you have to when you have to play the videos. Then moving down here, I do want to talk about fee assistance. So we do honor FAP and JAMP for med school applicants. So if you're a med school applicant, we honor that on our side as well. The way that it works is that when you reserve the test, you just check that you need that fee assistance program or you qualify for JAMP, and then you have to manually send that confirmation to us, and we can manually verify it on the back end. But what we're working towards is automating that process in the future so that there's no manual checking in the past. Sorry, on the back end from us. So in the future, you'd be able to just automatically verify that you qualify for JAMP or FAP. Moving on here, I just want to go over the test dates and times. So this is where you'll go to check the test dates available for the programs that you're interested in applying. So firstly, of course, we're going to choose a country. Then we're going to choose the programs that you're applying to. I'm going to go over medicine first, so you can take a look at that. So for allopathic and osteopathic medicine, we do have this test code, which is CSP 10111 for US medicine. And scrolling down here, you're going to see the list of all the participating schools. In your case, since you're applying to Texas schools, most likely, I'm just going to select 2 schools located in Texas, so you get an idea of what it looks like when you're applying to when you want to send your scores to more than one school. So scrolling down here, let's do Texas A&M as well. Why not? Let's do 3 schools. So scrolling down here, the first thing you're going to note is that we provide you with the last possible test date available for all selected schools. So what that means is that every single school does have their own individual deadline. And at the beginning of every cycle, we ask our schools, okay, well, when is your admissions deadline? How do we align that with our own testing schedule? And then every school has their own individual deadline, of course, and we try to align our testing cycle along with that. And so in this case, you can see that Baylor has a different distribution deadline. Then here we have Texas A&M as well, and so on. So at least you're able to know when would be the last test date available to take it for all the schools that you want to send your scores to. Second thing to note here is that we do have some messaging here regarding of whether the program does require a Casper only Casper or if they also require Snapshot or Duet. We try to make that as very clear as possible on our website so that there's less confusion coming from your side. You're less likely to email the admissions offices at these schools, and also so that everybody's on the same page as to which assessments you need to complete. Secondly, we also have this Altus Suite column here, which tells you which assessments you have to complete. Sometimes if you're looking at this from a small screen, you just have to scroll a little bit to the right to be able to see this column. But once again, we have all that information available here. And if I scroll down, once again, you're going to see our fees for the test here. So this is where you'll find that information. And now I'm just going to repeat the same steps, but for the vet schools, so you can see it on their site as well. Then I'm just going to click on veterinary medicine, and you're going to notice that the test is different here. So it's not US Medicine, it's US Professional Health Sciences, and the code is CSP 10101. So when you are signing up for Casper, make sure that you're taking the correct test that is for the particular program that you're applying to. And scrolling down here, I'm just going to click on the 2 Texas vet schools that we have using Casper. And once again, you're going to see the last possible test date available for all selected schools. And scrolling down, once again, you have information about if there's anything additional that the program wants you to know about Casper, that's available here. And we have the column showing which assessments you need to complete for those particular programs. Scrolling down once again, we have information about our fees over here. And I actually just got notice that our website is back up. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm just going to briefly log into my reservation page to go over those steps. So please bear with me. Give me 5 seconds and I'll be back up.
We're happy to provide some background music if that helps. Just a quick reminder, if you're watching and you have any questions, please do feel free to submit them in the comments. We are keeping track of those and we'll address them at the end of the session.
All right. Perfect, Enrique. That's actually good timing because I just logged in.
Nailed it.
I'm glad that worked out. Okay, so sharing my screen again here, as you can see. Let me just hide that quickly. All right, so I have my own dummy account on Altus Suite, of course, working here. But this is exactly what you as an applicant are going to see on this page when you want to reserve your Altus Suite. And the first thing to note here is that you have the nice button that says Reserve Altus Suite. Scrolling down, you have information about preparation, some information about accommodations, support, technical troubleshoots, everything available in here as well. Once again, you have that applicant support chat bubble if you're having trouble with anything regarding your reservation. Now I'm going to just click here. And you're going to notice that these are pretty much the same steps that I went over on our last page here. So let me quickly click on them. Let's say that I want to sign up for, I want to send my scores to a med school. Let's do that and click on medicine. Now, what it's going to show you here, you're going to get a lot of reminders here. For example, make sure that you are using the correct test code. Make sure that, you check the dates and fees page for the program requirements and so on. Then here you're going to get a list of all the med schools right now that are still open for testing. Let's say I want to click on 2 med schools, 2 Texas med schools. Let's do McGovern and Long School of Medicine. And if I scroll down, you're going to see the test dates available, where you have to put in your TMDSS number or your AAMC number and so on. And then once you have that ready, you just click on the Casper test date. Let's just do that. Let me do just like a random one so I can show you the next step. So here I can just select the test dates. Let's say I want to take it on Tuesday, November 15th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Once again, here, as you can see, it says Eastern time, so always pay attention to that as well. And then here, if I qualify for JAMP or FAP, then I just click here, and then that will bring it down to $0. But then once again, I have to confirm that I qualify for JAMP or for any sort of fee assistance. And in the event that you click here and then you find out that you do not qualify, then we'll just send you an invoice so you can pay for the test itself. Okay. And then after that, obviously, you go through your payment information and you make a payment. That part is very straightforward. But what I want to do now is go over our system requirements check and our practice test, which will be really where you will get comfortable with the Casper test format. So with the system requirements check, this is pretty much that tech troubleshooting, making sure that everything is running well in the background. Some things to note is that you need to have either Chrome or Firefox to take Casper. So no Safari, no Internet Explorer, if that's still a thing. Just always have the most up-to-date version of Chrome or Firefox and take Casper through one of those two browsers. Once again, make sure that you have a working keyboard and either a laptop or a desktop computer. So no phones, no tablets. You need to have a separate keyboard because of the way that the test is built. You need to be able to see the questions and also type them at the same time. Then finally, I'm just going to go over the practice Casper test. So here, as Adam mentioned earlier, this cycle, it's 15 scenarios, and you can see that our practice test is the full 15 scenarios. Some things that we've encountered in the past is that applicants have thought that they take that the sample practice test is the official Casper test, and that's not the case. Here we make it very clear that it is not the official Casper test. So you can take this as many times as you like. It really is just to help you get comfortable with the format. As you can see, you do have breaks in between, so you don't have to sweat it out and think that you have to complete all these 15 scenarios at once. We do provide you with breaks in between if you need to get up, stretch your legs, grab a cup of water, maybe calm down a little bit before you go back into taking the test. So we have all these optional breaks in between as well. Then finally, going back, we also have a separate version just for the video responses only, if that is something that you do want to practice on your own. We have that available as well. So that's everything I wanted to show on our page here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand it back over to Greg, and he's going to continue with this presentation.
Thanks, Gabby. So on this slide is a list of all the Texas undergraduate medicine programs that require Casper for this 2022-2023 admission cycle. You can also find this information as well as each program's list of test dates and times and all of their distribution deadlines and little requirements on the dates and fees page of the takealtus.com website that Gabby had walked you through earlier. If we can move on to the next slide, please. And so at minimum, every program will require Casper, but some programs may also require you to complete Snapshot and or Duet. So as Gabby showed you on the dates and fees page, when you make all those selections on that page, each program's entry does have the column that tells you which components of Altus Suite that they require. So you can also check that out just to be sure of what you need to complete. And along with that dates and fees page, if you like, you can also refer to the program's individual websites for the most up-to-date information about their individual admissions requirements. So this slide does show you who is currently requiring Snapshot or Duet along with Casper. And if we can move on to the last one. So there are also some Texas veterinary medicine programs that require Casper for this year, but neither of these currently require Snapshot or Duet. And let's move on. So we, as Gabby showed you, we have that FAQ page, which contains a lot of useful information, along with other areas of the website, like the test prep page. There's also a knowledge base full of help articles that you can access from within your account or by using the orange chat bubble on the takealtus.com website. The answers to many of your questions can probably be found there, but we can also go through some of the most common ones right now. So a common one we hear applicants ask is, how do I prepare for Casper? So Gabby showed us a lot of the little resources that are free and available to you. So the test prep page that she walked you through is pretty helpful, but especially after creating your account, you'll have access to some additional resources. There's the system requirements check that she showed you, which is quite important. It lets you check your device and your connection to see if they're suitable for the assessments. And you will need to complete that at least once within 6 hours before your test. That gives you plenty of time to, resolve any issues if they pop up. There's also the full-length practice test that you can try. Now, for that practice test, you don't receive a score or any feedback on that practice test because the answers aren't saved or submitted anywhere, but it does give you a chance to practice within the time limits and know what to expect for the actual test, getting used to the format, getting used to organizing your time, that sort of thing. So some general tips that we can offer on your test are to, in general, don't worry about any minor spelling or grammatical errors because those will not negatively impact your score as long as the raters can understand what you're trying to convey. So as Adam mentioned, you can even type in point form or short sentences if you like, as long as you're just able to clearly communicate to the raters. As well, in your actual responses, don't just say what you would do for each scenario. Raters are looking for why you would take that specific course of action. So since there are no single correct answers for any of the Casper scenarios, raters are evaluating you in part on your ability to communicate the rationale for your actions. So try your best to manage your time well and provide as much detail as you can to explain the reasoning behind your thoughts, rather than just saying, oh, I would do this. Use the time to explain, okay, well, why would I do that? Express, taking into account different views, try to get into the details of what leads you to take that, route of action and why you think it's appropriate. Another common question is, what happens if I experience issues while taking Casper or really any of the other assessments? So if anything happens during your test, whether it be a smaller technical issue or maybe something a little bit more serious, like if your power or if your internet goes out, simply please reach out to our support team as soon as possible using the orange chat bubble on our takealtus.com website, preferably while you're signed into your account, because that allows us to get some more context and see as many details on your account to try to help you resolve the situation quicker. But you can also email us, and we'll provide that email at the end. But during an actual test situation, if you use the orange chat bubble, you will receive faster support as it's more instant compared to sending an email. But in general, if anything happens, please try your best not to worry. It happens sometimes. And do your best to provide details of what you're experiencing, and our team will work with you to find a solution, because every situation is different, and there's often many options available to try to find a fix to it, and it really just depends on the specifics. But we will do our best to help get you along to complete your test without issue. And Gabby also briefly mentioned accommodations for Altus Suite. So we certainly do provide them for applicants who need them. You can request them by completing and submitting the Accommodations Request form, which can be found in the FAQ section of our website. There are two parts to the form. There is one part where it's for you to specify the test date and time that you have reserved. So we recommend you do reserve your test before submitting the form. And that's because we will need to apply your accommodations to your specific test that you have reserved. And part two of the form must be completed by a qualified professional, for example, perhaps a medical professional who is very familiar with your situation and your needs, and who can speak to what is appropriate for you, taking into account the nature and design of the Casper test. And of course, it takes time to review and process these requests. So you will need to submit the completed forms to our support team at least 3 weeks before your scheduled test date. And if you need, the form itself contains more details and information and instructions on how to go about requesting accommodations. In terms of contacting support, so during test sessions, scheduled tests, a team is available to provide live support. But of course, we are also available to help you out if you need a question answered or just seeking some more information outside of your test. So once again, just contact us through the orange chat bubble on our website. It's always in the bottom right-hand corner of takealtus.com, and ideally well signed into your account. But you can also send us an email at support@altus.as instead. So outside of tests, you should receive a reply within 24 hours, but we'll do our best to help you even sooner than that. And finally, because it is fairly new for this cycle, You may have questions about the new video response section of Casper. There is more information on the FAQ page, but just as a very brief overview, as opposed to Snapshot, where programs are viewing your responses, the video responses on Casper are evaluated by Casper raters, just like your typed responses. So programs only receive your Casper score. They don't see the content of your responses, whether it be your typed answers or your video response answers. And with the current Casper format, your typed section is separate from the video response section. So all programs will receive your typed section score, and the video response information will only be sent to a select group of programs called early adopter programs after certain statistical reliability thresholds have been met. The list of early adopter programs will not be shared at this time to prevent impacting the reliability of the data, but you can read more about all of that on our FAQ page. So finally, those are some of the more common ones, but we're happy to move it on to a more live question and answer session at this time. So we're going to try our best to get through as many of your questions as we can right now. But if you do have any further questions, you think of some later on, feel free to contact us through the site or through that email at support@altus.as.
All right. Thank you all so much for a great amount of information about Casper. We'll really appreciate it for taking the time and sharing a little bit more about the full Altus Assessment Suite. We do have a couple of questions that have come up in our chat, and I think we also have some questions that have come up on our end that we'd like to share as well. We're going to go ahead and kick off with Angelica Munoz's question. Hi, how do the schools use my Casper score? Do you have any insights on that?
I can go first, Angelica. Thank you so much for your question. So the way that you saw Casper scores, it really depends on what school you're applying to. Every school does it differently. As Adam mentioned earlier, some schools may have a holistic file review, which we know it's kind of turning into a bit of a trend in admissions, where they don't really apply any sort of weighting or there's no weighting to your Casper score in your admissions, in your application, and rather they just look at everything in a more holistic, qualitative way, and it kind of helps them paint a brighter, like a bigger picture of who you are as a person. The second way that programs may use your Casper score is by having a formula. So let's say, for example, you have a formula and you've taken the MCAT, you have your GPA in there and your Casper score. Then from that formula, the program is able to get an overall score of your application, and then they use that to rank your application amongst all the other applicants. So that would be the second way that they use it. And the third way would be maybe in a scoring guide or a rubric, which is pretty familiar, which is pretty close to the formula, I'd want to say, where they may have a scoring guide, and once again, they assign weightings to, for instance, your MCAT score, your GPA, your Casper score, maybe your letter of references, your letter of intent, and so on. And then from there, they're once again able to kind of create an overall ranking score for your own application, and they can use them to rank your application against all the other ones. So those would be some of the ways that programs are using Casper scores, but we really aren't able to say how each program is doing it individually, because every program does it so differently.
Thank you,
Thank
Gabriella.
you so much. I just want to add a quick context to that. We did have our member institutions join us for some sessions about a year ago, and we asked each one of them how they use Casper. And I just want to reiterate that none of our schools use Casper as the end-all be-all for applications. They're used as part of holistic review, just as how a bad MCAT score or bad GPA won't eliminate you outright. Casper is just another part of your application, and it helps reveal some strong points or some weaker points in applications. And so that's how it's used in the full context of the applications. Holistic review is still used, and so it's not going to be the end-all be-all for your application.
So I'll go ahead and move on to the second question that we received. This one is from Megan. Is there any feedback or guidance for feedback that advisors can use for the practice scenarios?
I can jump in here. Thanks for the question, Megan. We did have a webinar yesterday for advisors, and we do have a lot of information that we do share them. We have an advisor kit that can help them with all the questions that do come through from applicants and that they can use for that. Specifically for feedback on the practice scenarios, we don't, just because it primarily isn't scored. The practice scenarios are there just to familiarize applicants and yourselves with just the format of the test, like Greg and Gabby mentioned, just the time restrictions, just kind of making sure that you have everything ready and are comfortable writing things down. So we don't have any feedback, unfortunately, around that. But within our advisor kit and from the webinar yesterday, I know the TMDS have recorded that, and if you are an advisor, can share that with you. And we can also send out that advisor kit to you. It is on our website, but again, our contact details were in that webinar yesterday, so you can contact us directly. Even if you have some questions, we're happy to answer those as well.
Thank you, Adam. And I'll go ahead and just link to the video that was hosted yesterday. Just if you want to pass this along with your advisor, you can. Go ahead and enter that into the chat. Let's see, let me get to the third question that we received. How are the tests proctored? Does a third-party company proctor these tests?
I'm happy to speak about this one. So yes, the Casper is certainly proctored. That's why applicants are required to have a working webcam and microphone, as they do take the test in the location of their choosing. Altus proctors the Casper test ourselves. We do not employ the use of a third-party company to do so. Prior to the introduction section of a test that explains the general expectations of behavior for an applicant doing the test. So as Gabby sort of mentioned, the general act as if you were taking, just a physical test in an actual, serious testing location. Of course, don't be talking with someone else trying to work together to get answers. You can't bring in pre-written notes to help you out, that sort of thing. Fairly standard sort of behavior. But applicants are not required to download any extra programs or extensions to complete the test. All they need is Chrome or Firefox, the latest version, preferably having both on hand, installed and ready to go, just in case they have problems with one. They can quickly and easily switch to the other, but it's all done within a web browser.
Thank you, Gregory.
So another question that we get is about implicit biases that some of the evaluators might be looking at. And since here in Texas, we're the center of the universe, I was wondering if you all might be able to kind of share some tactics that you may employ to kind of address the diversity that we see both here in Texas, across the country, and across US and Canada, and how Casper or Altus has implemented kind of bias training for reviewing those responses.
Yeah, I'd be happy to get that response started, and Greg and Adam, feel free to chime in afterwards. But the first thing I want to talk about is the content of the test. So we ensure that the content of this test is, it's everyday life, things that can happen at work, at school, etc. And we try to remove as much, try to keep them as neutral as possible. So that, for instance, if you think that the Casper test is going to have a bit of maybe a political message or a religious one or something like that, we ensure that that is kind of out of the way, and that the nature of the scenarios that we build, that we blueprint in, are very much more neutral than that, and that they're mostly just, for instance, that a scenario of the parent trying to return the toy, that it's just something along those lines. Secondly, when it comes to our raters, so every year when we hire our raters, so when we train our raters, we ensure that they go through some implicit bias training. So that is to ensure that there's no bias, or that there's at least a minimized level of bias when they're actually looking at responses. When it comes to the written responses, the raters actually do not have access to see the applicants' names, their age, ethnicity, nothing. They get no information about the applicant. The only thing that they get is the written response from the applicant, and that is all that they are trained to look at and to assess. And now we know that now we have this audiovisual response format, and we are aware that these implicit biases may once again rise up because now the raters will be able to watch the videos, look at the applicants, they'll be able to see their faces, hear their accents, hear their voices, and so on. And so once again, we really hone in on that implicit bias training to ensure that the raters are really aware that that might be happening while they're rating the tests. And Adam and Greg, feel free to chime in if I missed anything.
Yeah, pretty much nailed it, essentially. I'll just mention one or two things. So you saw earlier that the Casper test itself is a 15-section test. It's not going to be one person rating your whole test. Each section is going to be rated by a different person. So you're going to get 15 unique impressions, essentially. So you're going to get the average score between all 15 people that are rating your test as well. And we do inter-rater reliability. So a number of our scenarios will be rated twice, and we want to see the difference in how our raters rate those, and they are very, very consistently rated. So we do have some really good inter-rater reliability. I'm just going to say that data, so that we can get there. Yeah, nailed it at the end. Just to make sure that everything is on par and that you are being fairly assessed. But yeah, Gabby covered everything else.
Awesome. Thank you all. And Sulema, do we have any more questions?
Let me just double check. Nope, it looks like that is it.
All right. Well, before we cut out, obviously Altus Assessments are a big part of folks' applications. And I wonder if we might be able to go down the line to maybe hear some words of encouragement or happy thoughts that you'd like to share with prospective applicants. And we'll put Greg on the spot first.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, in terms of encouragement, try your best not to worry. I mean, the whole point of the Casper tests and the assessments is for the programs to just really get a better sense of who you are, like just beyond, just your grades, beyond just what's on paper, to get a sense of your character. So, try your best when you're taking the assessments to be your genuine self, provide detailed explanations, and try to, let your character show through, because this is a chance to show a more personal side of you that may not be reflected on, just your grades, that sort of thing. But if you need any help with anything, any questions, our support team is more than happy to help you out. Our whole objective is to make sure you have a very positive experience overall. So don't feel shy to reach out if you do need help.
I can go secondly. So as Greg mentioned, be authentic. Really think about how you justify your responses in Casper. Take that practice test. Please take it as many times as you need it to get comfortable with the format, because 5 minutes can go by really quickly. And when it comes to the audiovisual response format, you do only get to record your response once. So there's no going back and editing your recording. So once again, get comfortable talking to the camera as well. Make sure that your background is clear, that there's no distractions. Something that we noticed, it's a bit anecdotal, but make sure you're looking presentable, because we've had cases of applicants who have taken Snapshot, and Snapshot gets sent to programs. And sometimes the applicants, obviously they're taking it from the comfort of their home, and they may not have a shirt on when they're taking snapshots. So please ensure that you're looking presentable when you're taking these video responses, just to make sure that someone else will be watching it on the other side, and you want to make sure that you're looking presentable for them. But once again, yeah, take the practice test and be authentic with your responses.
Yeah, I echo what Greg and Gabby said. Just, be genuine, be yourself. Like, this is a good assessment. These programs want to know who you are as a person, right? Rather than studying for a test. I know tests can be, as I mentioned earlier, daunting, and you can maybe be a little panicked before going into it. But we have a survey that you'll see. We ask applicants, how did you feel going into the test? Were you nervous? And obviously a lot of applicants are. And then we asked them after the test, how did you feel? And a lot of them said, oh, I don't know why I was so nervous. I felt like I was able to express myself and be a little bit open within this test itself. Basically, you're just being yourself and, just be genuine, sit back, try and relax if you can. I know it's a test for an admissions and it's high stakes, but this is a good side of it. It's like you're going into an interview. So just be yourselves.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all again so much for your time. And for those of you watching, I hope that you heard what the group has shared. Be yourself. Present yourself as you would during an interview. And at the end of the day, know that there are resources, there are people out there that are rooting you on, that are there to help you every step along the way. And we've mentioned this before, but the schools are no longer looking for the cookie cutter version of a physician, of a dentist, of a veterinarian, of a podiatrist. They're looking for individual people who are skilled in these areas, who really are ready to make a difference. And so don't feel that you have a checklist that you need to get through. This is one of those rare opportunities you get to actually get to showcase who you are as a person. And so don't squander that opportunity. Again, thank you all so much for the time that you've spent today with us and sharing your wisdom. On behalf of Altus Assessments and everyone here at TMDSAS, JAMP, and the Texas Health Education Service, we'd like to wish each and every one of you all the best of luck throughout this process. Know that we're all here ready to help. And we look forward to seeing your application or your assessment coming through our table. Have a good one.